funny friends, my funny friends, my funky friends now. My funny friends, my funny friends, my funky friends now.
Starring Drew Harrison and Will Abeles.
Welcome back to the My Funny Friends podcast. We missed you. We were gone for the holidays. It is so nice to be back. It's the first episode of the third season. So we're going to switch it up a little bit for you. First season was about me bringing on some of my friends in comedy and them in turn bringing their friends on. Season 2, we picked up a lovely co-host, which I would like to introduce now, Mr. Will Abeles. Will, how you doing, buddy?
Hello, Drew. I'm doing fantastic.
That's what I love to hear.
Wild 6 weeks since we've last talked. Just top to bottom.
Well, Will, I was so happy you joined us for season 2. I'm glad you're back for season 3. So what I'm thinking for season 3 is season 2 was great. We got to know a bunch of our friends in comedy, got to meet a bunch of new people. I met some of your friends in comedy. You met some of my friends in comedy. But I was going back and listening to some of the podcasts, which, by the way, hit that subscribe button, go back, check them all out. But you didn't really get a lot of Will and Drew. You know what I mean?
And as much as we forced our way in, it was a lot of everyone else.
Exactly.
And that's not how I roll.
I knew it was killing you. So for season 3, we have the great opportunity of being back with the Project Nerd podcast family. Shout out to Project Nerd for keeping us aboard, renewing our contract. So we're thinking this is going to be more traditional podcasting in season 3. We're going to talk about our lives, things that are going on. We'll still try to be, organized chaos, and we'll try to have a theme. And we're still going to bring our lovely friends and guests on. It's not going to be a requirement to do an episode to search down a guest and get them on board,
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be, because we had this conversation recently, and we said the world needs 2 more white guys talking about their lives.
Of course.
And we had to fill that void, because if we didn't do it, then who would?
Everyone else.
Who would?
You're here because you love me and Will, and you want to be here, so we appreciate you. That's all that matters.
Thank you for sticking through the hot. Yeah, for some reason in my mind, it's like this is where we cue the not an in memoriam, but like the year in review. But we do it as an in memoriam, and it's just like Corey Knox just like smiling, like in black and white, and then it like goes to Tamar, and then just keeps going back to like Anthony DeVito, and like then a bridge collapsing, and like just.
Which shout out to our past guests, following them on social media after the shows, after we recorded episodes. They've been doing great. Tamar came up and had a great run in Nashville. Corey's all over the place. I just saw him at the Boulder Comedy Show in Denver. Like that's just fantastic.
Corey's all the way out in Denver. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was on a star-studded lineup.
Good for him. Good for him. I know his show just sold out here in town as well. That's the thing, is like when you don't see anybody for a while, that's a good sign. Well, normally, unless it's me.
Then it means I Well, I was going to say, man,
if it's me, it's me.
You had the opportunity to take a nice break from comedy. So how are you feeling now?
It was pretty. If we could, I don't mind talking about it, because I'm pretty much an open book anyway. So basically, it started. The break was needed, but the realization that the break was needed didn't come to me soon enough, and it basically started in June.
Okay.
And I was really excited about that tour. I had a big tour come, and I was excited how it came together. Then we closed it out with Evan at the end of the month, with Evan Burke, our good friend, who is recording an album on February 9th.
Yes,
I'll be hosting it if you want to check it out. Check it out, Third Coast Comedy Club. And that was like one of those tours I set up, and I was like, this is going to be a fun one. And then gas shot up to like $4 to $5.
Yes.
And some of the shows, like, I don't mind going to a show and then coming back to do it again for more money. but this was not one of those tours. And shows were
This
just
wasn't
falling through.
paying or
Yeah,
helping future Will.
right. And this was like shows were falling through. Like gas was so expensive, I couldn't make any money. I had just gotten lost my job at the flower shop, and which was also a blessing in disguise. Like
A lot of times
it just
losing
was like,
jobs are like,
yeah,
I
it
know
was
it
one of those where I was
stings
like,
in the
oh, I was
moment
burned out.
where you're like, oh
Yeah,
man, I need that money.
right.
But then you look back on it and you're like, that's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. Because it was like that was that's this whole other story. But I lost a job, that was happening, and I just was like grinding myself down, And Charleston was so much fun with you guys, but
Oh
even
yeah.
that, like, but even that one show where I'm like yelling at people at the Wanderer, that was like the first, like, for me mentally, that's when I was like, because you said
Oh
something, you were like, you just started to sound mean, you sounded angry,
yeah,
and I was
man.
like,
You
something's
went.
happening.
I thought you were about to
Yeah,
start pushing people into the pool.
I mean, that would have been funny as shit. But so, but then we got back. I had a few more runs by myself, I think. And then the car went out.
Uh,
And that's when it was like it was like I was running on fumes, like
yeah.
quite literally running on fumes. And yeah, so basically it just keeps snow. And it was just like one of these things where you're like, when do you get a break? The positive thing was that was about the time things started to really kick up for you.
We both were kind of at
Head up.
that crossroads in Charleston where we were both kind of burnout. We were both had hit the
Right.
ground running since things opened back up, and we both needed wins. And I feel like the universe just kept piling on you, and I actually got a
Right.
couple wins thrown at me. So I feel bad,
Right.
but
Right.
I'm truly thankful for what has happened at the end of 2022, 2023 for me, with things opening
Yeah.
up and my calendar getting full. And it's one of those things, man,
Yeah.
where I was taking a hit mentally with my day job. I
Hmm.
worked at a veterinary clinic, which shout out to those heroes that do that day in and day out, that are still doing it.
Yeah.
And be nice to them, because they're not going to be anybody left if y'all keep treating them the way you're treating them. But I was so mentally just burnt out with that job. And 20 Christmas 2021, my
Yeah.
wife was like, quit that job. And I was like, I
Yeah.
got your
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
She's
Right.
like, please do. So thankfully
Yeah.
she was what, and I finished up school. I went back to school for like video editing, graphic design, stuff like that, and
Right.
started applying for jobs out of school after May and June, and nothing really was coming through. And luckily comedy was
Yeah, it is.
like, we got you. So comedy picked up, man. I made the most
Yeah.
money doing comedy I ever have last year, and 2023 is off to a good
Hmm.
start. And it's just one of those things that,
Hmm.
like, I never thought, like, I always dreamed of the day of pulling the trigger and going comedy full time, but I never thought it would have
Yeah.
happened because I
It's just
had
like
to.
that. Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
was
And
making money.
right. And so that was something that I was like happy to see, because I could focus on that and go, all right, well, look, Drew kept plugging, and you and I had a plan at the beginning of 2022. We kept calling it 2020 Drew,
Yes.
and we just kept trying to put that positive energy out there, and I think it
It was
worked.
great, man. The
So,
album's doing well on YouTube. I have no idea.
yep.
I think once you independently produce an album and put it out on all the channels, like,
Hmm.
I truly don't know how to look at how it's doing. I got a little thing on the website I use to tell me how much money I've generated, and I mean, most comedians
Yeah.
out there know it's not a lot. So that's, I
Yeah.
don't, but I get random emails that say, "Hey, last week your album did well on Apple," or at one point Amazon it was doing well. I truly don't know. So if you've
Yeah.
listened to it, thank you. If you watched it on YouTube, I can actually track that. So thank you very much for that. But the album did well, man. We had a blast in Charleston later on, and in 2022, Dusty Slay picked me up at the end, and I've been doing some
Yep.
dates with him. So yeah, 2020 Drew paid off. We put it out into the world, and now we're gonna flip the script and do that for you in 2023.
For 2023. And I do, well, I'll get to the positivity of 2023 and talk about the downfall of 2022 and Will Abels. but like that was the thing. It was like I was watching and I was like, all right, this is good. This is like good positive stuff, but I couldn't find positivity in my own career, in my own comedy, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And it is possible
then
to be happy for your friends and also be upset at the same time. And that's
oh
understandable.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's yeah, absolutely. Um, and yeah, so for me, like what was I just, I'm grinding myself down and I'm not real and I have some other personal stuff with like my family and parents and just like I was just getting it from all sides and I was like, can everyone just get off my fucking back?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I knew it was coming from love and just like I knew that they were right too, was kind of the annoying part. But
Don't you hate that?
basically we had that, yeah, I know. And then we had the show at Love and Exile, and that was when it was just like I'm done. Like
That's
it
when
was like
I
it
was
all like compounded on
genuinely concerned for your well being.
right because it was just like well, and like the thing is, because I do remember everything I said, and there are things that were so accurate. Like it was funny how many people messaged me the next day to be like, "Hey man, I've been feeling the same way. Like you really," and I was like, "Okay, so I'm not." I did feel a little bit of validation, but then I
Right.
canceled that weekend of. Oh, also, it wasn't just the show. It was remember I had that big headlining gig, and that
And they
got
just
canceled
kept jerking
after
you around.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, I'm done.
And it wasn't
So
their
I
first time
canceled my ball.
doing that to you.
No, no, no. And then when I did finally get to go, it was fun. It was fun, but I was like, this was not worth the headache
No,
that I was putting into it. Like I did the show, I
it
did the
never is.
job, and I had a good time. But it was like the last two shows, I was like, this is bad.
Like
But that
looking
wasn't
back
anyone's fault. That was
now,
just an off.
and thinking of the things I used to put on this huge pedestal and be so bummed out that I didn't get. And then you finally get them and you're like, why did I
Well,
put so much stock into that?
yeah, 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 exactly.
It's so, it
And
never like, don't get me wrong. There's some goals I still want to hit that I think are worth it. But some of those early
right,
goals I set out, I'm like, well, I should have aimed a little higher.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so that's sort of like, and I kind of got to that place now, but so that show was like that happened. I just started dating my girlfriend at the time, and starting out, we joke about this now, is like starting out, we had to kind of break each other down, and now it's good. But like it's like some people like it's like you have your honeymoon phase, and then you start like trying to be like, oh, we got to really get to know each other. We did
Yeah.
that in reverse, and it's like so things are great now, but at the time it was like we're trying to break each other down, and like I'm also going through all my own personal stuff, and
Yeah.
so I came out of it and was like, I just need to take a break. But I've
Yeah.
never taken a break before. Like I've never even like in 2020, I went straight into Zoom shows. Like I went straight into like doing everything I could,
And I
which is its
think
own
that's,
nightmare.
and I think to be honest with you, man, now that we can be honest and talk about all this stuff, I think that's what truly helped me power through when
Hmm.
I was at the same kind of crossroads is because I did thoroughly take that break. I did
Yeah,
recharge. I did completely. I didn't do. I did maybe like four shows the whole time. Like I really
yeah. See,
recharged during that time.
yeah, I did not do that. I did not do that. I didn't. I did the opposite of recharging at all that time.
Just
But
doubled down.
yeah, but the funny part was I thought like 3 weeks is a break. So I took 3 weeks off and I went to one open mic with our buddy Brandon Gerald. And we were doing two mics. And the first mic was fine, it was whatever. And went to the second one, and I was sitting there and I was like, nope, this was
No.
too soon. And I just left. I just
Yeah.
left and
Well, that's
and Brandon
smart.
was
You
like, dude,
didn't.
like I did and I yeah. And so then it was like, all right, I will do the shows that I have, but that's the that I'm putting the minimal amount of effort in for the rest of the year. And that was good because I finally got to like organize my schedule, recalibrate my goals, try and fit like even listening to sets from like the summer, I was like, this is just not me, you know?
Yeah.
And and luckily I have a very patient girlfriend who helped me through a lot of that and got finally got into therapy, which has been great.
Look at that.
And I know, oh, I love my therapist. Of course, I wrote a joke like this second after the second session. I like was writing jokes about therapy, and I
Of
was like,
course.
I'm just like on my path to becoming Mark Maron by the end of this whole thing. but
I can see that.
yeah, no. So like the break was great, and then I came back and I decided like, all right, because I was going to record my next album slash first special in October, and just didn't. Like, I was just not in the right headspace to do it. So now I'm like motivated. I'm going to do that in March, which
Yeah.
obviously you're part of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we're going
yeah,
to
yeah.
do first. Yep. I just got to figure out how to come up with some money.
Yeah, that's always the fun part, right?
Yeah, but that's also been. I mean, we'll get to that later because that's a whole chapter of its own. But yeah, so far this year, it's been fun again. You
That's
know, I
good.
did one show in New Orleans while I was down there working, and it was just fun. It was fun watching the show. Like, normally I watch a show and I'm like, come on, just get this over with. Like,
Yeah.
but these guys were very entertaining. They were all very funny. They had unique like point of views and everything. And then I just did a show in Huntsville the other night.
One of my favorite
Everybody
shows.
annihilated.
One of my favorite
Oh,
shows in the
so
country,
good.
man. I love it.
Yeah.
The Epic Comedy Hour, Huntsville, Alabama. If you ever get the chance to be a part of it or just in the audience, do it because it's
Do
an
it. It
amazing show.
so good.
Scott and his
And
crew
it was
really bring the best comics out there
yeah.
that you've never heard of. That's the best part. It's the start of your fandom for a lot of these comics. Is you see them if you
Oh,
go see them at
absolutely.
Epic, it's a great show. People bring their A game on it, and boom, now you got 6 new comics you're fans of.
Oh, I mean, it was, I mean, and the audience, like, so we starting out, the mic wasn't working. The mic kept going out,
Oh no,
and Elliot White was the host, very funny comic,
love Elliot.
and he just like sat there. He kind of ate it, like not like ate it like he did bad, like ate it like he was eating the problem with the
Yeah,
mic
yeah.
until they finally had to go, hey, we gotta stop, and we'll fix the mic, and then so the show gets back and running. Audience stayed with it, even though we started like 40 minutes late, essentially.
Oh, that's
And I
awesome.
was the last comic, so I was like watching them from the back, and the dude before me, like everybody was crushing, and the dude before me, like except like really, really did. And I was like, I don't think they're gonna have energy left for me. But I
Yeah.
was like, on the last one, usually that you get this weird mentality of like, is he a headliner or whatever? So Elliot did a great job of like getting me up there, being like, "This is the new guy. Come on, last guy, we got it." And the first joke, I could feel that they were tired,
Yeah.
but then after that first joke, like I got to the punchline, I got my first laugh, and then the rest of it, they were like just applauding, and it was just one of the best sets I've had in years, honestly. And so it was
Awesome.
so much, and it was just fun watching everyone. There was a dude from Arkansas, there was like another guy from Atlanta. Like it was just a nice collection of people. All of us were wearing plaid, which was the funniest thing.
You
Like,
mean comics were wearing plaid?
oh, it was, I mean, literally every single one. Even Jessica Carter, who drove down with me, she had a plaid scarf and was just like, we were all just losing it.
That's
Like, it was
hilarious.
crazy.
Yeah.
The show was fantastic. And it's just, yeah, the shows have been feeling fun again. And then prepping for this special has been, oh, so I guess like, so, I went to New Orleans. Obviously, no one at home knows this, but I also work in TV production as well. Sometimes, not often, but I'm trying to get back into it more and more.
Well,
And
I
that
mean,
was
if
like a
they
career I used to
checked
balance in New
into
York.
tie into episode 1 of season 2, you talked about it.
Yeah,
So look at that.
if you're a day one season two Will Abels fan, then you
Look at
know.
that.
But so I went down to New Orleans to work on Miss Universe, and I was the production coordinator. Got a title bump midway through because
Ooh,
it's pretty good at that job. Yep,
yeah.
a lot of reflection on where could I have been if I had just stuck with it. But as I'm doing it, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm really good at production and I'm pretty good at stand up. Like I need to start combining this more. So the special's been fun because I get to flex my producer skills and just like between putting the team together, fundraising, that's going to be the next step right now. And I'm still kind of figuring that out, which is something because I haven't really had to do
Are
that
we doing
before.
a car wash?
Honestly, I'm like thinking about
Bake sale?
like I'm trying to think outside the box and like car wash would be so funny. But yeah, it's just been fun producing it. And now that my shows are in place for the next like 6 weeks, it's like, oh, okay, like these next 2 weeks I'm producing, and then the next 6 weeks after that, it's like just full comedy. And I'm looking forward to it as opposed to just like, all right, well, we're gonna go to Louisville and I'm gonna make no money. It's like it's not
Yeah.
about the money, it's about doing the
Right.
job. Brandon's coming
Having
with me
fun.
for a
Because
lot of it, and he's
I had a
yeah,
lot of fun on the lead up to mine doing the random shows
right,
that'll
right.
put you up for time and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, and just the support's been fun because I'm not really doing a lot of shows in Nashville because I don't want to. I want everyone that wants to see me in Nashville come to the special.
Right.
But the people that have offered me time, it's been like, cool, thank you, appreciate it. And it was like a no-brainer too. Like I was like, hey, I really need some
Yeah.
spots. That day I filled up like 7 more spots and I was like,
Look
sweet,
at that.
cool.
That's nice. Sometimes you just got
Yeah.
to reach out, man.
So
Sometimes you got. It is a great community. Sometimes you just got. A lot of times we don't know people need help until
mhm.
you ask for it.
Yeah, you just have to. Well, it's like any job you want. You got to send your resume because they don't know you're looking for the job unless you let them know. And that's
Yeah.
how. I mean, that's such an important approach to comedy too. Is just like doing show and like when people are like, "Oh, I don't get booked," it's like, well, let people know you're
Keep
for
going.
like there's right like Aaron Weber's a great example where I just had to ask him. I was like, "Hey, can I book you for shows? Like, you seem so busy." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll like if I'm around, just you have to just let me know." He's like,
Yeah,
"I'd love
yeah,
to do it." And you're like, "Oh,
yeah.
okay." So I don't know. I feel like I have a different philosophy. I'm enjoying comedy again, and I have a much healthier approach where it's like, and I guess what the mentality switch was, for years I was just grinding, like don't miss an open mic, don't miss the show, don't miss the bar show, don't do it. And I kind of, was looking at it and was kind of thinking about you a little bit too, where you're like, if I'm working on something, I'll be there, but I'd rather hang out with my wife. And so my mentality switch was like, well, you tried it this way for so long and you had some successes, like my first album was #1 on iTunes, like had some pretty cool road shows. I've had a great network, which is something I'm pretty proud of. But it's like, well, you tried it this way for so long. Let's just try it the other way. Like it's going to be healthier.
Well,
You
that's
might
my whole
enjoy it
thing, man.
more.
Is
And yeah,
I don't understand why that stigma is around stand up comedy that you can't be a healthy person. Like we're told early
right.
on, you eat terrible food on the road. Your
Yeah.
mental health is always terrible. You hate you just are just miserable all the time. Like it doesn't have to be like that.
Right. And I think, I mean, and I, as much as I actually don't like this at all, but social media is a huge reason that we can be a bit healthier
Yeah,
because, it's like people are more, I'm not saying people are more likely, but they can see you on their phone
yeah,
and they don't have to come see you live. And and
yeah.
preferably they come see you live. But there's no like, if I'm working on new bits, and I'll be at a lot of mics over the next 3 weeks or next 6 weeks, I mean. But like I'm not working on anything new. I'm just doing it for the repetition and everything. And it's like it's not, I guess for me, New York, I do think you have to kind of be out as much as you possibly can
Well,
because
they're
there's
gonna
so many
forget about
comics
you
and there's
so fast.
right.
You got to
Right. But
keep
that's
being
also
in
a very
people's
different
face. I
scene
feel
from the
like,
rest of the country.
yeah,
Yeah, because I remember I went on the road for like 3 weeks and I came back and everyone was like, "Oh, I thought you quit," and I was like, "No, I was doing the job."
like, no, I was out there doing it.
Yeah, I was like, "Guys, remember that? Like, remember
Yeah.
doing the
Remember the
job
end
and
goal?
not just posting on social media?" Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Oh man, I had the
So,
best of both worlds though. I was at a show this weekend in Grand Rapids, Michigan at Dr. Grin's, which is a fantastic club if y'all are ever in the area.
yeah,
I
I've
would
always wanted
say
to do it.
I'd say don't go in January. While we were there, it had about 8 inches of snow on the way up there. While we were there and on the way home, it's me and my little Kia were not prepared for that, but we made it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, but I started the water tower joke, and I heard a person at the front table be like, "Oh, it's that guy." So he had seen me online
Oh,
and saw one of my
that's
clips, and he
awesome.
just didn't put two and two together yet. But that jarred his memory. He's like, "Oh," and he came up to me after the show, bought a water tower sticker. It was great.
Oh, that's fantastic. See that, and that's such a rewarding thing. Like that was one thing I actually, when I first moved to Nashville, I really like. I've never been a part of a small scene. Like
Yeah,
when I was stuck in Hagerstown, like sure that was a small scene, but like no one's like looking for comedians in Hagerstown. You know what I mean? Like the
yeah,
comedians, we all knew each other. There was only like 30 of us,
yeah.
right? And I was the guy that was like just like around. So it was like, I mean, that was kind of cool because it was like I could walk into any room and get time and that kind of thing. But that's like, what's that even mean? But when I first moved to Nashville, when I got the #3 thing, that when I was like voted #3 on Nashville scene, I was walking down the street and some guy was like, "Hey, you just got number 3 in the Nashville scene," and then like we had a mutual friend, so he like kind of put it together through that. But it was like, oh, that was cool. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was like that. I did do that,
I did do
or
that.
like so yeah, or like
What?
someone saw me at like one of the like a random Dewey comedy show. Well, we did it outside of what's it called? The refuge place. I don't know. It was like outside under like a tent and it's like freezing out.
Oh
But
man.
I just like was like just did the set. Like I just brought it as if it was like an actual stage and everything. And then some guy went to like a bar that I was at and was like, "Hey, I saw you the other night. You were great." And I was like, "Hey, that feels good."
Hey, appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's always
Yeah, but
so nice, man.
it's such a rewarding film.
I mean, you saw
Yeah,
it.
and
Whenever I
especially
need a
that.
big ego boost, I go back to Wilmington and just walk down the street. Felt so good. Anytime I bring a new comic with me to Wilmington, I'm like, please let
Oh,
people
it's so
recognize
funny.
me. Please let people
Oh
recognize me.
God, I know.
And but see, that's on the flip side. That's what's funny to me is Nashville's a bigger scene to me. I've because
Yeah,
Wilmington was so small. At any given point, we had like, you know, 7, 8 comics you could trust to do a show. So it's
right.
weird to be part of this scene and people be like, "Man, I can't wait to get to a big scene." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"This is
yeah.
big-ish." Yeah. Like I
I
get it. We
mean, it
need
is.
more
It's
shows, we need
definitely
more
yeah.
mics, preferably a couple more main places to do comedy. But yeah, this is way bigger than what I'm used to.
Sure. And I think like if you can rank cities as like a number one city, a number 2 city, or number 3 or number 1 scene, a number 2 scene, a number 3 scene, I would definitely say Nashville's like pushing a number 2 scene, if not, and it could probably, I don't think it could ever become a number like for number 1, I would say like, New York and
Well,
LA,
unfortunately, number ones were
obviously, and
decided a long
Chicago.
time ago. Like Chicago
Right.
had to work to
And then
get
like
to a one. Like
sure. And then I
take
think in the
away
last few
second
years like
city, they're
Austin's
not a
getting up
one.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a lot of clubs up there too, and
Very
yeah,
true.
but
Very true. But I'm just saying,
yeah.
like, to be a one to me, you have to be able to move there and become famous. Like,
Oh yeah, I
it's
meant more for
designed that,
like,
you know.
yeah, I meant more for like in terms of being able to be on stage 3 times a night if you
Okay,
really
I
wanted
got you.
to.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I was saying like, I would say like New York and LA, and I don't know if Atlanta's back there yet, but they can be there, and then like
Denver was trying to.
Chicago and Denver. Denver's pretty close to that. I can't speak for the Northwest. I've never done a show up there. But then I'd say like Nashville's like a number 2 that could be a solid number 2. We just need
Yeah,
consistency.
yeah.
But the scene's growing. I mean, even though the break I've taken, like I saw a list from one of the open mics, like that someone posted on Instagram, and I was like, I don't know any of these names, and that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
I mean, it's so funny that people talk so much about the gym being overcrowded in January.
Yeah.
Stand
Oh
up
yeah,
comedy
yeah,
open
yeah,
mics are crowded in January as well.
yeah. Well, and a lot of it's also it goes hand in hand with when some of the classes finally wrap up, and
Okay.
then the people that really want to try it start. That's what I've put together is like the third coast classes are ending, and these people are motivated and they like want to get on stage. And there's also like just a lot
Nice.
of people moving here again.
Yeah. Again, it was so
So
funny in Wilmington. We had like our Super Bowl was Port City's top comic. So you'd see comics come out of the woodworks at the beginning of the year to prepare for Port City top comic. And then
oh, that's
they'd
funny.
do the contest and you wouldn't see them the rest of the year.
So they're like the like going to church on Christmas. Like you only go to church on Christmas, and
Exactly.
that's like
Yeah.
that's so funny. I don't think I've ever done a competition. Have you?
You've never
I
done a
mean, you've won
competition.
a couple.
I hated doing competitions, but they were kind of like a necessity in North Carolina. Like you had to. Like each club kind of had its own
Yeah,
competition. You had to do it. I think Good Nights for a while was like, if you don't do the competition, we're not gonna look at you. Like in a nice way. They weren't like,
yeah. I
get
mean,
out of here. They're
yeah,
like, but we will be picking our features and hosts locally from this competition.
yeah. I know Philly's funniest because that was one that I actually, if 2020 hadn't happened, I was actually gonna go do Philly's funniest in 2020 because the running, and I have a lot of my better comedy friends are Philly comics. because like at some point in New York, I just kept going to Philly because I was just getting booked more, and
Yeah.
it was just like, why not? It's funny, like when I know when Philly's Funniest is coming around because it's when I start hearing all the drama coming out in the scene. And so like all my friends are like, and I, as someone who's not part of the scene, I loved listening to the drama. But the funny part was everyone, like, I don't know how many years it happened, but people from New York kept winning Philly's Funniest. And I was like, I want to go down. I told like one of my good buddies, Eddie Finn, I was like, I'm gonna come down and try and win it next year. And he was like, honestly, I don't know if we could be friends anymore
Like, just
if you
let you
did
know, this
that.
puts a divide in us.
Like he was like, we will not. But yeah, that was
Uh,
the closest to like doing a competition. I've just never. I might try and do Boston's this year if I can get in, but like I just don't. I don't know. I know it's important, but I
is it
think my
anymore
ego
though?
couldn't take it. But I don't know because it's like. So I was telling you earlier, I've been watching the Comedy Store series, and
Yeah.
that's like and it's so frustrating to watch because when I started comedy in 2009, uh it was still like that, where it was like you do the open mic, you do the bar show, then you do the club shows, you get pretty good, then you go on the road, and then you're a working comic. Maybe, like that's a
Ish.
simple version of it.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get like you get the pilot and get this stuff and whatever. And now it's just like, so like the idea of winning a competition would propel you somewhere. Like in college there was the Rooftop Comedy Festival, which Blake Wexler talked about when he was on the podcast. And our friend Brandon Scott Wolf won that when we were in college. He was a Penn State guy. I didn't know him until later on, but he won that, and then he got to perform on George Lopez. So he came out of college like 21 years old, 22 years old,
With
already
a
with a
credit.
TV credit under his
Yeah.
belt.
That's
Right.
fantastic.
And that's what that led to, is winning that competition and got to do a TV spot, And it's like you win in Raleigh, which a very respected scene. Good Nights is a very respected club. You would think that would propel you to this next thing, but it's kind of just like bragging rights, and you get to do the road a bit more,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Well, that's
It's just
what
so
when
different.
that's how it was when I won that contest in Wilmington. Is I didn't I got taken more seriously at the particular club I won at, so that was nice. But then
Right.
other places, other bookers in North Carolina were like, "Oh, okay," So it was almost
Yeah.
like a North Carolina credit at the very least.
Right. And that's like a good credit to have because of how many cities have established scenes in North Carolina. But, if I'm winning, although I guess Magooby's in Timonium, Maryland, Baltimore, that was one that I do think
Timonium?
if you it's they say it's Baltimore, but it's technically Timonium.
No, I'm just saying that's the name
And
of a town.
this name of a town. Yeah, I think it was
Timonium.
Shane. Yeah, Shane. I actually didn't know the name of it until Shane Gillis actually. It was like right after he got fired from SNL, and he was headlining Magooby's, and there was this clip that he posted, or someone posted, and it was about all his friends being like, "Oh man, like that's so much good exposure." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," because instead of partying with Eddie Murphy for the whatever anniversary, I get to perform for you for you idiots here in Timonium, Maryland. And the place just went nuts. But that was one Magooby, like I forget what it's called, but like winning Magooby's competition was, I think that one was actually, it did some stuff for you.
I definitely think local competitions have merit for sure. Like,
Yeah.
but then after you get to a certain point, I feel like you have to start wager, like, is the payoff worth it? Because you can ask any comic, and 9 out of 10 of them are going to be like, I hate competitions.
Yeah. Right.
You just rather
Right.
do a showcase with your friends.
Yeah. Real. I mean, that was like our show at the Anson where I was, and that again, that's another thing about my
That was
new,
a
not like
blast.
philosophy, but
That was
just,
a great time
yeah. And that was
for people that
right.
wanted
And
to
that
see
was
us.
like, yeah. And they were so supportive. They had fun. Everyone did well. Like, and that was another thing I kind of changed my mentality about, was like with the Love and Exile show. And like one thing I can say is I've never had to worry about the venue, and I haven't had to worry about the staff, which is for independent for producing an independent show,
One and two.
that says a lot. And so yeah, and so they're always great, and I'm excited for the mic to come back and the show to come back.
So we kind of recapped our 2022, kind of see where we're at moving forward, both in much better mindsets. So speaking of mindsets, man, how are you feeling about the material you plan on putting on this album?
Well, that's thanks for asking. That's been like a really interesting process because the first album I did, I actually had jokes on there that weren't ready to be on the album, and they'll be on this album, which is 5 years later, 6 years later. And then the second album I did was more out of necessity. Like
Okay.
it was just that Zoom album I did in 2020.
Yeah, yeah.
So this one is kind of the like, I want to finally do it right. So there's a little bit from the first album, a lot from the second album, and then pretty much everything I've written in Nashville in the last couple of years. And so that's been interesting picking through because, there's probably not that much, but like probably about 7 to 10 minutes that's just about COVID, and it could be even longer. I could do 20 minutes on 2020, and so, but that's irrelevant now. It's like material that people don't really care about. It's hard to make them come back and think about it, and you don't really want them to come back and think about it because it's so traumatizing for some people.
Right.
So picking through has been really interesting at this time, and I really haven't gotten a chance to run a long set yet. So I'm kind of waiting. We're going to Huntsville again in like 2 weeks or a week and a half. And then after that is where I'm going to really sit down and get the whole set list and be like, all right, here's what we keep. Here's what we
What you
drop.
doing in
Here's what needs
Huntsville next time?
polished.
Maggie Myers.
Maggie Myers. Yeah, yeah. I'm going down with Brandon to meet Evan, and Evan's doing a long set, and I'm doing like 20 minutes. And then I'm going back
Now,
in March to do the long set.
now how is it kind of like you kind of got like a training partner in this? Like how is it having a friend in comedy that's kind of gearing up for the same thing?
Well, so Evan and I, it's been interesting because I helped him get booked on a couple of shows, local, like Chattanooga, like stuff like that. He basically, I sort of used him as a tester for what I want to do with road stuff and everything. Um, it's been interesting, but he's so independent that he's pretty much just been doing it all on his own, and I'm just sort of like I wouldn't even say moral support, but just kind of like bend an
Here if
ear
you
when he
need me.
needs to.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. But it's been fun to like kind of watch because I'm just like, oh, he just kind of got that. Like, because he's good at the marketing, he's good at all that kind of stuff. And then he actually went back and he's been using his friends that he started out with as like soundboards to polish up everything, which I think's great because he and I write very differently. So I don't
yeah. You
think
got to find
like you and
someone
I
that's
can do
your
that
style.
together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Like you can give me tags and like that kind of stuff, and we can like work through it. Evan and I can't really do that for each other because we have such like he's given me tags before, and like it literally like the second he gave it, I was like, "There's no fucking
I
way I'm
can't say
using that
that.
tag."
I'm not.
Yeah, because we just have different styles. But it's been fun watching him go through it because we've been there as well. But yeah, we really haven't been like collaborating as much. We're doing a couple things here towards the end together, and it'll be interesting to because I haven't actually seen him run the full set, which he'll be doing at Maggie Myers on the next whatever it is, the 6th or the 7th,
Okay. Yeah.
or the 8th, maybe it's the 8th.
Next Monday.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm actually taking Brandon Jarrell on the road with me for the majority of it for two reasons. One, I don't have a car still. Do have a bike now.
I saw you
Got
got a
a
nice
hot
bike. That's awesome, man. Just don't get hit.
Well,
It's
and also
Nashville.
I was
It's Nashville. Be
my
careful.
God, and I was riding around last night and I was like, I'm gonna die on this thing. But I decided to go with Brandon because I needed someone who was a bit of a younger comic in terms of years they've been doing comedy. And he's sort of getting to that point where he's building the 20 to 25 minute feature set.
Yeah.
And I was like, this will be a good opportunity for him. Like, this is like not me just using him for a car. This is like he's actually at this point where he can go around with a headliner, hopefully. And like, this is a good chance to prep for that opportunity when it does come, whether that be at stand up live or if that happens at Zany's or whatever. Like, this is a good chance for him to be ready for that. And I know he's been working on 25-30. So like, I wanted to go with him because I was like, this will just be a good learning curve for him, and like, just be like, hey, this is the road. Like, we're gonna go. They're gonna guarantee us $50, and we're gonna put a tip bucket out, and we're gonna make $60. Like,
Yeah.
but you're working for the time and the material and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's so funny, man, because like I didn't really have that comic that like took me on the road for the first
Yeah,
time.
see, I
You know
haven't
what I
had
mean?
that either. I've always been the guy taking. Well, Alex Grubard was the first guy to take me on the road, but again, we went on the road together because I had a car and
Yeah.
he set everything up and I would drive him there. And then eventually we became very good friends and would just do the road together. But
Like the
yeah, I've
North
never
Carolina,
really had someone.
yeah, the North Carolina scene was more like let's get five of us from one scene in a car and go do a showcase in another scene, and then
Yeah,
they'll come back a few months later to our scene. So like that's how we started getting on the road in North Carolina. But like now that like luckily, you know, the club I came up in taught me how to act as a comic because you do have to have someone to teach you like the etiquette and how to act and
sure.
because there is that side of it, you know. So you need to know what's cool, what's not, what you need to ask, what you know, all that good stuff. And so luckily the club
Yeah.
taught us that, and I didn't like because now I'd be out there with some of the headliners that are taking me with them, just being an idiot and being like, oh, like I always ask the headliner if I can sell merch as a feature. I've heard the horror stories. I luckily haven't run into a headliner that didn't let me sell merch yet.
Yeah, I haven't either, but I also haven't been selling that much merch. So. Yeah, see, that's the thing is I never had
I
anyone
just sell
take me either.
stickers, you know. So
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
really
yeah.
get mad
You
at
got
the
the, you got
sticker
the,
guy. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's not like you're selling like 1,000 t-shirts a show.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, like I didn't have anyone take me, so I've just been learning everything by trial and error.
Well, no, that's glad that you've learned a lot of that stuff, man, because you were super beneficial when I was going through this last year. You know, you knew the things to
Yeah,
do for the audio side because you know you put out the special, but you still want the audio to be on all the streaming platforms so people can listen to it if they don't want to, if they're not going to watch it somewhere. You know, you still want to get those
right.
numbers. So you were the ultimate guide through that last year. So that's nice. You already had that under your belt, and now you also, you know, helped me with the video side and coordinating everything and getting with the videographers. So it was kind of nice that you know you had a little trial run last year too. You know.
Yeah, I mean, oh, that's yeah, and that was kind of like a refresher course, sort of. Yeah, the audio part is so funny because you just like my path in that was the first album, lost all the audio because I had, one guy doing too many things,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then sent out the audio from my phone to a guy who like he has since won an Emmy for he's so good at audio engineering. Yeah.
Wow.
And so yeah, so he did a great job, but it still sounds like it's on a phone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then the next
Is
time
that the guy
around
that did the
was the
audio on
Zoom
mine?
thing. No, no, different guy.
Okay, I was
That's
about to say
that's
that guy
Matt.
won an
That's who did
Emmy.
my Zoom
What?
one. No, no, no. I don't think Matt would be charging what he does if he wanted an Emmy.
That's fair. That's fair.
But uh yeah. But
Which
Matt,
still
so
Emmy worthy quality though. So thank you.
oh, so good. He's so
Yeah.
good. So Matt came around because he and this guy named Alan Richardson, they tour together and they do this really funny act called The Sad Man. And it's just one of the funniest, most bizarre things. And they came to Hagerstown, did the show, met Matt that way through Alan. And then I reached out to Alan about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Matt does all of my audio stuff." So I reached out to Matt. Matt takes the Zoom thing and turns it into a masterpiece for what it could be, based on Zoom. And then we were watching your special, and there was that hum the whole way through. And that was when I was like, "Oh, I bet Matt could fix this."
I was about to say,
And
now that
then,
I've heard it, what hum?
yeah, exactly. And so then Matt, yeah, but it was just, yeah, again, just like your special was one of those just like refresher courses of like what needs to be done, what can we do, how can we do it, and then it was like, oh, I can do this too. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, you know, a pretty good editor, so you know it works out.
I know, yeah. It's I know an editor that isn't gonna hound me for the money when at the end when I'm like, yeah, I'll pay. And I just have a Venmo
Just
request
keep
sitting
sending
there for
Venmo,
6 months.
just sending Venmo or invoice after invoice after invoice. Like
Yeah, and I
maybe if
see
I
you at a
email
mic
one
while
more time.
I just see you at the show the next day, and you're like, sup, man? Like we're fighting on via email and like, but then this it was like, no, it's different. Like I'm fighting the producer. I'm not
Yeah,
fighting the
yeah, yeah.
comic.
No, it's comic time. It's fine.
Yeah. But no, I mean, again, that was another thing is like you learned how to edit your special. So now
Yeah,
I know who to go through. It's like just
yeah.
building that team. And it's been fun. I mean, I don't know what it's going to lead to long term, but it's been fun putting the team together, and I'm excited to see how it turns out and what we can do with it.
I was about to say, what are your goals in this? What do you want to visual? What if so and so happens, you'd be happy with this
Well,
because we're going to speak it
I'm not
into
planning
existence
on,
here.
yeah. So, one thing I'm also working on over the next 7 weeks is to try and get my followers up, which isn't easy,
No.
but I am going to work on that. And so, what yours at like what 20, 25,000?
What the special
Yeah, streams
20
or
20
views. I mean,
22 on YouTube?
22. So and you have a lot more followers than I do. So I'm like looking at that and I'm like, if I break 10,000 on YouTube, I'd be happy. I'm also debating putting it on Prime, but that's a conversation for 6 months from now.
Yeah,
But I mean, ultimately what I want is just a really good product.
that's not.
Like
Yeah,
I
okay.
want the Yeah, like I
That's
want
a
it to
good.
look good. I want it to
Yeah,
sound good. I want it to be fun. Like I want to have fun. I want the jokes to work. And I just want to have a good, I want the album to be crisp and clean and clear, and I want it to look really good. So even if it's not seen, I can still take it and show other production companies like, hey, look what I did with this amount of money
yeah,
and this
yeah.
team. Like, so that's the
Oh,
ultimate goal is just to like finally do it right after two other attempts and just like make it just look and sound really, really good.
gotcha. Now, is there going to be some stuff from the older album on the special? Like, how you kind of picking and choosing that? I know you touched on it earlier with like the COVID, but like, how many's
Yeah.
making the cut from the Zoom one so far?
Well, the Zoom album, The Pride of Hagerstown, it's essentially a breakup album. I mean, it's all about a very specific breakup, and a lot of it just like doesn't. I don't relate to it anymore. So it's sort of the stuff
Don't
that
you
I can
feel kind of
still
weird
relate
telling
to. I
it?
enjoy. Yeah, well, I just don't. It's like talking about a stranger at this point. At that
Yeah,
time,
true.
I still felt a lot of it. Now it's like I don't even know this person,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and not like in terms of like the breakup. And I just can't connect to it. So there's the stuff that I still can connect to. I'm taking out. But there's like even like very dated references, like that you just can't use anymore.
Right.
Just little things that are very funny that were very funny to me at the time, but just now you'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
What?
So
What's up now?
yeah. So I'm going through. There's a lot of stories, a lot of stuff about my family. Uh, there's some new stuff I've been working on, but I don't think it's like worth putting on because it's so new that
I
it's like,
gotcha.
well, save that one for the
Yeah,
next time,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm probably using I think that one was an hour long.
Yeah.
So I'm probably using, I would say probably a half hour of it, maybe.
Okay.
And then only like one or two jokes from my first album, and then everything else is pretty much Nashville based for like the last 2 years.
Okay.
So
That's a little
yeah,
mix of
and even that
your
that I might
career there.
be yeah, and I might actually be guessing high to be
And I was about to
honest,
say, you don't know what
because
you're going to reshuffle once you start doing it more too. Once you start getting
right,
really geared up for it.
right, and that's been the funny thing the last like few weeks is I'm like, do I what am I taught? And then I like remember certain jokes I just haven't told recently because they're so long that I can't put them into a showcase set.
Yeah.
And so like little things like that I'm like, oh, you know what? I actually don't need to pull that much from the old album. It's just like certain jokes I really want to make it onto this one because I just think it's going to be heard and seen more than the last one. So yeah,
I like it, man. I like it.
yeah, we'll see. We shall
Cool.
see.
Would you have any more wisdom to drop on the independently produced album special front?
If you can tape over two shows, I suggest doing it. I'm not this time around, which is the one. But I like doing live. Like that's just me personally. Like I need
I
that
thoroughly
pressure.
enjoyed kind of having the pressure of the early show, knowing it was the
Yeah,
one that sold out, the one that I'd have the best shot at when I did
yeah,
mine,
yeah.
for sure.
And that's just been something about me. Even like when I played sports, like I wasn't the best practice player, but I had to be in the thick of it to like really
Yeah,
do my
same,
best.
same.
Except for tennis. Tennis, that was the opposite. But yeah, so I don't know. I would suggest doing two tapings if you can, or two recordings back to back, or one night like nightly, back to back on nights.
Yeah, when you're in the pocket.
Um, yeah, give yourself time to relax because running long sets is exhausting. Being on the road is exhausting, and just like keep a balance. That was like that. I put a lot of pressure on myself to get everything done immediately, right?
Yeah,
And again, one thing I'm really thankful for with my girlfriend is she was like, "Does this really need to be done today?" And then you take a step back and you go, "Oh, you know what? The ticketing site doesn't have to be up on Friday. It can actually wait till next, like sometime next week."
yeah.
So little things like that of just like staying organized so that you don't overexert yourself and put too much pressure on yourself because ultimately it's about the comedy. And so you want to remember to be like in a good mindset when you're actually doing the set itself. So, stay organized.
I hear you, man. Well, I can't wait to be behind the camera at your taping, and I am excited about it. And I'm just excited for season 3 of My Funny Friends on Project Nerd podcast. We got a lot of
Yeah,
great stuff
baby.
coming your way. We got some topics we definitely want to hit on. Like I said at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, a lot more Drew and Will in your face talking about stuff.
A lot
So
of a lot of tangents coming from this guy over here.
we're here for it.
And thank
That's why we
Drew's
cut
gonna
out
bring us in.
that stupid guest. We don't need no guests around here. But now we're still gonna have some
We've cut
guests from
out
time to time.
we will have some guests from time to time, but I've wrote one more story before
Yeah.
we went and saw The Whale last night. Have you seen The Whale?
What?
The
Is it a
Whale,
movie?
the Brendan
Oh,
so
dude, you know,
The Brendan Fraser comeback
I
movie.
I try so hard to stay up on pop culture because you have to in this field. But
Right.
movies in my bag, man. The last movie I saw in theaters, Knives Out, the original one.
Oh God. Wow.
Yeah.
You really don't go. Well, we went and saw the whale. Hannah and I went and saw The Whale last night,
Okay.
and leading up to it, we went to like get food, and we just like clean plate club, just like ate everything, and then we went and got ice cream, and then we're getting
Yeah.
popcorn, and my stomach was just getting bloated, so I just had like you could see my stomach through my shirt, and like we're going to see The Whale, which is about a man who is dying from obesity, and it's a very very heavy film,
Oh
very good,
wow.
but we're leading up to it and we're both just like food drunk. And so I kept doing this weird character where I kept rubbing my belly and I just kept being like we were at the ice cream place and I was like just rubbing my belly eating ice cream. Like we both just couldn't stop laughing and I kept just being like, yeah, daddy does love him some ice cream, and just this weird. And then we come walking into The Whale and I'm still doing the character. And then like the first scene happens where you see this guy and like we're both driving home, very heavy film. And I was like, hey, remember like earlier when we were laughing? And it was just like, yeah, that character just he can never come back after what we just saw in that movie. And it just, I mean, instantly we both were just like so depressed and like sad.
Yeah.
And we were like, man, we were having such a great night.
Such a
And
good
we,
time. For the record, I'm glad that
no.
character's not coming back because way to appropriate my culture, sir. I appreciate you.
I know. I mean,
Get out
the
of here.
bros get mad at me when I jump into their culture. I can't do big guy culture either.
Mm-mm. Oh man. Well, what you got? Talk about some of the fun shows you're looking forward to on the lead up to the. First of all, if
Oh,
you're
we
in
got some.
town in Nashville and you're here for this Friday, February
Yep.
3rd, we're at Third Coast Comedy Club. You can see Will in
Hmm.
action hosting for our critically acclaimed show,
Ooh.
Stone Cold Sober. I'm just going to start telling people we won awards, and there's no way they can prove us otherwise. So
I mean, that's a pretty simple thing
Award-winning
to look
Stone
up.
Cold Sober, you know?
Oh, what's the award called?
Best version of drunks and stone comics battling each other by the People's
2020.
Academy.
There you go. That sounds believable.
Yeah.
I don't think no one's gonna
Can't
question
fact
it.
check that.
So check it out, 9 p.m. on Friday. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We have a great. It's going to be a good one.
Oh man, two great captains bringing great teams.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to. I think I might be pronouncing wrong, but it's in Louisville. It's called Kaiju, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. It was another. Yeah, it was a 2021 that got canceled on me, so I'm excited to finally get up there and do that.
That's the one I'm going with.
I'm
you
excited,
Louisville,
like
right?
just. Yeah, we're doing that one
Yeah.
together, and I'm excited for. There's one other. Oh, I'm going back to Hutton and Smith in Chattanooga. I'm excited for my Chattanooga shows, JJ's Bohemia and that one. And then I'm excited. Like I go to Louisville like a couple times, like three or four times. So I'm really looking forward to just being up there. Gravely Brewing, this other one that I don't know the name of. It's like just outside of town, and I just got booked for that like yesterday. So I need to add it to my calendar. But I'm just excited to like consistently have long sets and just see other scenes because I've only done one show ever in Louisville, or maybe two, but yeah. So I'm excited for Caillou. That'll be with you on February 28th, I believe is the date. That's a Tuesday. Nice. So that'll be a good time. What do you got coming up, Drew?
I actually get to enjoy February a little bit, man. I get to be home a little bit. I've been went pretty hard in November, December, and January, so I'm gonna enjoy not driving 9 hours in the ice and snow.
Yeah.
So it's cool. But next Thursday, February 9th, I'm at this great production called Under One Roof. They bring a bunch of local Nashville and surrounding area comedians and spoken word artists, and I'm just really excited about it. And then I think that's all I got for a little bit, man. I'm going to be in Waterton February 16th, but we'll be back with you before then, so I'll talk about that then. So yeah, we're talking about 2023 is all about balance, and I'm balancing the crap out of February by being at the house.
Yes.
I'm gonna watch the Super Bowl.
Yes.
My wife's team's in it. I'm gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be great, man. 2023 is gonna be a great year, especially for your friends here on My Funny Friends. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Tune in. We're gonna be here every other Wednesday through the year, like we did last year. So I think we did 33 episodes last year. So we'll see if we can do what we do this year. So.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
We can do 35.
Ooh, look at these goals he set here.
Nice rounded number. Well, it's an odd number, but whatever.
But most importantly, man, go out there and do something that you want to do today. Have fun. Draw that little drawing you don't believe you can do, because I bet you it comes out better than you think it can.
Is this how we're wrapping shows up now?
Yes, we're gonna be positive for 2023. I got Bob. I've been hanging out with my buddy Bob Ross back here. Paint that pretty little mistake,
Yeah, paint that little tree. Paint that pretty little tree. I can't wait till we do this show and we catch. Yeah, we're gonna catch one of us on a bad day and then try and do that. No, it's like, I don't know, just quit and go home.
Nah, we're gonna be positive through 2023, man. That's what we're doing.
Positive. All the way through. The way through. I like it. If
it's not as cloudy where you're at, where I'm at. So if it's sunny outside, go outside, just enjoy your day.
Or even if it's not, go stand in the rain, get caught in the rain.
Let's test. Let's make sure we end every episode in 2023 with like a cliche, live, laugh, love.
Yeah, every time.
But no, guys, we'll see you next episode. Thank y'all so much. Have a good
one.
project nerd make that?